Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, we got the privilege of talking to individual Anne, who I'd seen a comment on a YouTube video, and I had asked for her to reach out, and she actually did end up reaching out. And it's leading to a very interesting conversation that's about to happen. I've been waiting to talk to Anne for a little bit of time, and I'm glad that the time is finally here. But Anne, how are we doing tonight?
Wonderful. The pleasure's mine. I'm glad that you called.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I think there's going to be a lot to this one, but Anne, I'm going to go ahead and let you fill in the details about what you would like the audience to know about your background, if anything.
Okay, so the topic is Bigfoot, obviously, or things like that, high strangeness. And so from a very early age, I'm about 53, but in the early 70s, I had my first experience. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and I have lived in other places. Some of those events occurred in other places too, and I can get into those if that's where we go. I grew up on a farm, a conventional family, and a little bit of religion there, and definite belief in God and, our Savior and Jesus Christ, things like that. But also there was a rift in the family. My parents divorced, and then after that time, there was movement. So it's not, I don't want it to be portrayed that it always was conventional, because you'll see that my story takes me to different places too, because I've had to scramble as a single mom myself and work, and, so I've had to travel a lot. And so that kind of bleeds into why there are situations that have happened or occurred in different parts of the country. But leading back to, I think it was like 1974, my dad and his cousin, we were north of Spokane, Washington State. It was in Washington State. That's Northeast Washington. And we were in Spokane. I remember it vividly, at least seeing the thing. My second cousin, was babysitting because my dad and his cousin was in law school, and my mom and my dad were friends with, they used to go do things together. And so his oldest daughter would babysit us. Well, there was 4 or 5 kids, and we were all about the same age. I was, I think, the youngest. Maybe there might have been one younger than me, but I was about 4. We were in the yard playing, making mud pies. And we had a hose out there, I remember. And it was on the South Hill in Spokane, but this is back before there was a lot of development. And so there was more trees in the back behind and forested areas. And so we were in the backyard playing, and there was a big tree to my left, and I was facing, say, north, because the house was also to the west of me, which was on my left. And then there was a big, huge tree, like a tamarack, because, Pacific Northwest is well known for those, even in backyards. And then, we had this big mud, blog or whatever we were playing in. And then the kids all ran in. So they ran inside, and I just remember lagging behind because I wanted to still make mud pies. I was having a grand old time, and I didn't want to go in. So I stayed out, and that was always curious to me, because it was like a point of separation that's talked about. The kids went inside, I was alone. And I'm sitting there making these mud pies, and I remember seeing something huge behind the tree. It like slid up behind the tree, and I just saw it like peripherally. And then it leaned out, and I remember seeing these huge eyes. It was huge. I mean, it must have been, I don't know, because I was so young, but it was very large and ominous. And I remember experiencing its presence. Like, it was formidable. It was scary. I was literally terrified, and it didn't have a normal expression on its face. Like, it wasn't friendly. It like looked at me like very intent. And I just took off running into the house. Well, I had to run past it, but I did like I curved around, I swung wide, and I got inside, and I had wet my pants, and I may have like done more than that, because I remember I got in trouble by the parents because they didn't have a change of clothes for me, and that it became about that. Like, I never got that part out to them, that there had been, not that I was very, vocal at the age of 4, but I know that later on we had talked about it. My family's well aware that it happened. And my dad said, well, maybe it was teenagers or something, but he had his own experience when he was 10, 60 miles north of Spokane, when he was hunting, because back then they used to hunt really young, back in the 50s or 60s, whenever it was. And so, he's more open to these sorts of things than, like maybe another parent or something. But my entire family knew that I had experienced this thing because I talked about it off and on after that. And then also after that, I experienced, like, right away, it was really weird. I would go to bed and my bed would shake. And then I would get these impressions, like, it was like mind speak, but it was like in unison. There was more than one voice, and it would be like, we are going to get you. Just like this chanting sort of stuff. It was so bizarre. And I would go into my parents' bedroom, I remember, and tell them I can't get rid of it. Oh, it's your subconscious. Oh, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And then at the age of 8, I was baptized. And then I had just noticed that I had thought I grew out of it, but looking back later, I realized that that was around the time that I never had those voices at night. So it wasn't like a paranoid sort of schizoid sort of, event or anything like that. It wasn't like that sort of development, because it would only happen at night, and it would only happen when I was, alone. So it's not like, I was hearing these voices or something. It's when I was alone at night in my bed, and then the bed would shake, and my dreams were terrible. I mean, it would be like, I'd have dreams that big hairy creatures were coming after me, and that, I would freeze in the yard, and I would drag my legs to the house, or I had to protect my little kittens or something. And I would be putting up these cardboard walls because, the creatures would be coming through the walls. It was just always really night terrors and things like that. And then, like I said, when I got baptized, that sort of stuff went away. The night terrors, that sleep paralysis still came back off and on, but that mind speak stuff all went away. And I truly do believe that we have power and that sort of thing. So that's kind of why I led into the whole, that there was a religious background there. And some people don't believe that sort of thing, but just whatever your flavor is, whatever it is, that was mine, and it worked. And it worked for me, at least. That's my that's how I feel about it. And then later on, as time went on, some weird stuff happened. Like, there was another incident in Spokane, but it wasn't a Bigfoot. I saw, like, go ahead.
And before we get into that, and I know listeners are hating me right now, but we already talked before, guys, that there's gonna be kind of campouts through this conversation, because I don't want to just skip over what you just shared, and it was a lot that you just shared.
Right.
And maybe we could chat about that for a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So that was back when you were 4 that you had your first visual. When you think
4 or
of
5.
4 or
4 or
5.
5. Yeah.
Okay. And when you think of that time, your memory that you have, do you remember it as it was this big, like, ape type creature, or it was a big, like, weird looking human type creature, or is there anything like that in your mind?
Well, and that's the confusion, because I wasn't sure that it was like a Bigfoot at the time. because it wasn't like a big hairy ape, but it was, if you could imagine the outline of one, you could still see its eyes and things like that. It was still there and tangible, but it was like, uh, I don't know how to, the only other, I mean, I've seen one since, and it's not, it's the same thing, but this was more like a creature. I mean, it was more like, so hard to explain. I heard it explained one time on another podcast where this woman had come up through Wyoming, and she said that she saw one that was stretched across the highway, and it smiled at her. It had a big mouth, but she said it was like a weird color, like cream or something like that. I know that sounds weird, but that's what it was like. It wasn't your traditional, it was like, I don't remember so much like the hair or fur as I do that it was just this huge head and face staring at me. And then I saw the body out of the corner of my eye slide up behind the tree, but it was huge. And then when it came out the front part of the tree, its eyes must have been, they must have been as big as baseballs. I felt like, I don't know, I was 4 or 5,
Yeah.
But big, huge mouth, huge.
I was going to ask you about it. So was it kind of a drawn out mouth, or do you remember any specifics about the mouth?
I think it smiled.
Okay. Were you able to see teeth when it smiled?
No. Okay.
Interesting. And do you remember any other details of the face, like maybe skin color? Or?
I don't. I don't. What's got my memory kind of messed up is that I saw it crawl behind the tree, up to the tree. And when it did that, it was a weird thing. It was a weird, not normal thing, the way it kind of crept up. Like it kind of glided up a little bit, but was on the ground, but it was really weird. And so that part of it, and then it leaning out, the eyes were big, the mouth, and it like looked at me like, I don't know, like why, I don't know why it didn't grab me. Like that should have come next.
I was going to ask you, because there's a point where you had to run past it, but you made a wide curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did it react to you at all when you did that run past?
I was flight or fight. I had nothing. As soon as I saw it, it was like I got that whatever adrenaline dump and was gone. I mean, thank goodness, at least it wasn't, to freeze. Yeah, it triggered me to shoot out of there. And I just remember just head like so fast into the house. Like there's no way I was sticking around.
How soon after that did the hearing the voices and the dreams start?
I would have to say right away. I mean, because my memories go back to that point, you know what I mean? And not a lot of people remember past like 4 or 5, right? But I have memories back to 3, like when my mom brought home my little brother, who's 3 years younger than me. I remember when she brought him home, but I don't remember mind speak or anything like that. And it wasn't like mind speak, like it really wasn't having a communication with me. It was like somehow these voices, and there was numerous voices, were trying to scare me, and they were chanting. And it's just crazy. And it's nothing that I heard. Like our house was, no one else heard it. Our house was my dad was very protective. He's a Marine veteran, there's just no way that it was coming from anywhere else other than what was inside of me. And maybe it was just me and my subconscious, but there was a correlation is all I'm saying. I mean, it certainly, I tied it together, and maybe it was a trauma response. Maybe maybe it was a trauma response. And then maybe, just being baptized after that made me feel secure and safe and.
Yeah, absolutely. The dreams that you would have where you said the big hairy creatures would be coming after you.
Yes.
Did they look the same as what you saw?
Sometimes they were represented as apes. Sometimes they were represented as bears, but I have actually had dreams of giants before I had my most recent sighting. So I've had dreams that I was up on our property up north of Spokane and that there was a big flood, and then they were like swinging down and like they weren't good, but it was like some kind of natural disaster and they were coming around and they were formidable again, but they were at that point like Bigfoot.
Okay. And this is a dream you had around the same time? You said that was later in life?
No, later.
Wow.
Later. They've just been ongoing. Yeah.
Oh, you've had ongoing dreams like this?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So the voices stopped after you got baptized, but
Yes.
the dreams did not.
Mm-mm. No.
That's
No.
really interesting.
Great.
So you
And
can,
that could just be my own fears, I don't
Sure.
know. I mean, obviously. So.
well, yeah, that I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Actually, there are a few more. So the house that this happened around, how close was your closest neighbor at that time?
Behind us, I'm not sure because we were up on the south. Like right now, it's just, it's all developed. But I think it was just a regular neighborhood where there was forest in the back. You know what I mean? It came in through the back. It came in through the back for sure. For sure it did. Because that's the route, the way it traveled. So, but it was still a populated area, You didn't have to go very far to go to the Bing Crosby Theater or down the hill, But it was up high on the South Hill a bit. But it was just way back then, it just wasn't as developed. You didn't have your nice model homes that are up there now behind. There was just a lot of open area.
Do you think your parents believed you at all when you would tell them what happened?
Yeah, because my dad has had situations like I said, when he was 10, he was hunting in a swamp on our property, and he said he could feel a presence in there, and it scared him, and he left. He was hunting a deer in there in the swamp. It was a big area, and I remember riding horses by there before I even knew about what happened to him. But I rode horses when I was a kid, and I would always look at that tree line and think that Native Americans were in there watching me or something, because Native Americans used to battle on those grounds, but I don't think it was Native American spirits that were looking at me. I think it might have been something else, I don't know.
Sure. So you said there's same property?
It not as what I saw in Spokane. This is a different property where just, there's just a lot of high strangeness in Washington State in general and Idaho. So, yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, you're right. It did start right off the bat for you, but you're free to definitely let's continue with what happens next.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think that just kind of opened me up to things. I just think that I knew it probably traumatized me greatly, more than anything, and I just want to put that out there that people that are running around looking for Bigfoot situations and things like that, they're unclean. I don't believe they're clean spirits. They don't seem to, experience, joy or, love or, whatever. I mean, I don't know. We don't get that close to them, but they certainly do like to instill fear upon you and terror. And they seem to have a little bit of jealousy too, but I'll get into that. They seem to compete or have a little bit of ego. And to me, that's just, those are all those wrong emotions that, that seems to be what they function on. And so I just don't think that I I don't think they're beneficial to humans. I think we spend way too much time thinking about them, and I think people pursue them. Right now, they're kind of a novelty. People make money off of it. But if you truly are experiencing them like how I experience them, and they play games, they manipulate, and I'll get into that, but they can make you sick. Like I've been sick. I have been sick for days after being out in the woods with my dogs, after having one of them call out my dog's name, or something like that. And I've been around them, hearing the weird noises and stuff, like I'll get sick after that. And that's just not good. It's not good for you. But so just moving on, and I'll try not to, there's been some other weirdness that I've experienced, but I'll try to move forward. When I moved to Oklahoma, I lived for a couple of years in Tulsa, Broken Arrow, and I would run to the like the Come and Go or the gas station in the morning to exercise, and then I would run back, and I would have to run through these fields. And this one field had the round hay bales, and it also had like a culvert area in there, and then there was a golf course close to it. But sometimes when I would come home, I would just know there was a dark thing that was standing by that hay bale, and I would never look straight at it. I kind of like knew not to do that from the time I was a little one, and that happened. I knew not to look because I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know what I was looking at, and I would just go by. But then there was some violent tree shaking that was going on in the mornings, and so then I quit going at dark. I'd wait till the light came out, and so that there was more humans around. Because one time I had gone around, I had routed around. I wanted to extend how far I was running. I was probably late 30s, early 40s, I guess, around the time, and just trying to get more exercise. So I extended my route, and I smelled the smell, got the formidable weirdness, weird feeling, whatever it was. I knew that the tree shaking, I hadn't invested. Bigfoot wasn't quite what it is now. Right now, there's kind of a hysteria on it, but it was more on the down low. You didn't really talk about it. But I knew that there was something like that, you know what I mean? Just because I had experienced it early in life. And sometimes there's things that just aren't explainable. And so I remember one time on my way back, I saw a print. It was a huge bear footprint. And it was in the mud because that was a field that they had been, obviously there was some Timothy hay or something they had planted in it. Otherwise it wouldn't have had bales of hay in it. But it had rained, and there was this big, huge footprint. And then I looked around, and there was no other footprints. And so me not knowing like how it goes, I mean, I knew what I saw when I was little, but I didn't know that they can just have a print and then go away. Like you can see just one print, and then there's no other prints. And that's what I saw. I saw one print, and then there was no other prints. And so I discounted it because I thought, well, there's no other print, so that's not a Bigfoot. So I'll check that off. And I mean, now hearing other people say, yeah, there was just one print, and then it's like it dissipated or went away. Now I would know, like, oh, well, that was legitimately a footprint. I mean, that's legitimately a Bigfoot, but I just kind of discounted it. I moved to North Idaho. My family's from North Idaho, Northeast Washington. I moved to North Idaho, and I started going on. I'm in a community. It's a small community, and we are just surrounded by mountains. I mean, there's just hardly any flat land at all. And I started going on the trail on my bike with my dog. I have a German Shepherd, and started experiencing really strange stuff. The violent tree shaking to where it couldn't just be something shaking the tree. It's like every leaf is shaking. It was really weird in broad daylight. Just different stuff that I was experiencing. And then there's some real weirdness to this area, but I'm going to go into my elk story. This happened in 2019 and 2020. My family's well aware of it. My manager at work heard about it that morning. The janitor that works where I worked had a situation back when he was 5 behind one of our famous restaurants here along the river. He had gone up to the chicken coop behind their house or behind the restaurant, because they had a house up there, and they had a bear hanging that they had just gutted and killed, and it was hanging in the tree. And he said that he watched a Bigfoot walk across the chicken. It actually upright stepped over the chicken like wire, because it had been out there investigating that bear hanging there. And this is a common theme. You'll talk to people who hunt, and they'll hang different stuff, and then they'll get slaps on their houses and things like that. So, it's kind of talked about amongst certain people and then, maybe not others. I don't know. But anyhow, so one morning, it was in 2019 or 2020. It was December or January. It was snowing out. Well, actually, I got to go to the night before, because this is going to explain how these things think. They're very, very manipulative. So I go out. I've got my dog. She loves these tennis balls that are like greenish yellow that you buy at Ace Hardware. You open the can, 3 come out, and then I have a ball launch. And so I launch the ball down the hill, because then she has to run up the hill and she gets more exercise out of it quicker. So, I'm kind of make her do more work, right? So I'm doing the ball launching. This is like probably about 6 o'clock at night, maybe earlier, because I guess it would be dark. So it was earlier because it was that time of year. So I don't know. It was the night before, but it wasn't dark out. The herd had come in. The elk herd had come. They come across from the north. They cross the highway and they come up, and then they go up onto the southern mountains. And so they're just it's very common to see them. They'll migrate over, but they're just really doing their they're sticking together, the cows and the calves. So these were first year calves, and they were all following their moms, and there's like different tiers, levels of ground that they go on, and they follow these little wildlife trails, and you can watch them where I'm at. And I don't want to say where I'm at, because I've been going there a long time, and I just don't want to call it out. But anyways, so they cross over in front of me, and I'm sitting there launching this ball with my dog, and I'm yelling at her, and not mean, but we're having a good time. And the cows turn with their like antenna ears, that you could tell their face, and they got their ears out. They're just kind of curious as to what the heck we're doing, because that dog keeps running after the ball and running up the hill. And it was kind of entertaining. Well, their babies, 2 of the babies start jumping around and playing. I mean, it was almost like watching Rudolph and reindeer games. It was so cute, because the dog was jumping around and excited. And so the little calves, they were far away, but they could still see, and I could see them, and they're jumping around. I thought, that is the most adorable thing ever, because I had incited like this joyful play in them, or I hadn't, my dog had, but we together had done that. And so I thought, wow, what a memory. So I posted on social media, because it was so exciting for me. I was like, oh, these calves were playing. It was so cute, and just that they had responded like that. And then the next morning I went out, because I had to go to work, and I wanted to take her out because she was home all day long. And I took her out early. It was about 7 a.m. And I hear this elk screaming, and she's to my north. Well, these cows the night before had been to my south, because they had crossed up and over the road. So this cow elk is just bellowing. She's screaming her head off. And they only do that if something's taken their baby. Like she wouldn't shut up. It was super loud. The other cows had crossed over, and they were doing it quickly. So they weren't like casually walking. So there was something down there, and I thought it might be a coyote or something, And I didn't know, but it was kind of disturbing, because they had just been playing, and I didn't know if it was one of those calves or not, not to get too attached or anything, but that would have been a bummer. Anyways, so I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I'm trying to see where the cow is screaming from, and I couldn't see it. But then there's these 2 big hills, and then there's a bridge that's on a trail, and this upright figure walks right across that bridge in between the two hills. And this is, pretty far away. It's about maybe an eighth of a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile. I can't really measure it. I've shown my kids and stuff and where it's at and on a map and stuff, but I can't really measure it. But it's close enough to where I could see an upright figure walk across. I couldn't distinguish if it was a man or not, but it was a really tall, upright thing. And in the back of my mind, I thought, where's the baby calf? It wasn't holding it, so it was not a Bigfoot. I don't know why I thought that. I don't even know why I thought it was a Bigfoot. Probably because she's screaming her head off, and why would there be a human so close to her? Because it was coming from that area. And I was like, this is so weird. This is so bizarre. I didn't see clothes on it because it crossed over that so quickly, but I couldn't get a gauge on, I don't know. It's like it was right beyond it wasn't close enough to me to where I could get a gauge, and it went so quickly that I couldn't figure out what it was, but I knew that it was big. And so I got in my car and with my dog, and I drove down and through the field where you would have to see that person walking, and it's for like half a mile and then half a mile the other way. There's no way in the amount of time that I raced down there that person could be gone within that period of time. You would still see them walking into town or away from town, either way, right? I was outside of town, but you would have to see them on that trail because that trail goes for miles and it's open. And so I went down there and I crept down to the bank. And at that point, I'm not thinking it's Bigfoot. I'm thinking, I just need to see a guy. I just need to see a person. And I'm with my dog and there's no one there. And I go and I look for any footprints. There's nothing there. There was nothing there. It was snowing. There was snow out. So there should be prints unless he had stopped and hid up somewhere. I mean, you would see him. I could see back down to the bridge that he was on, but there was no prints. So something weird was going on. And so I went back up towards my car because I'm trying to take all this in. Because, when something like this happens, you have cognitive dissonance. You're like, okay, don't overthink this. This is like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? It was weird. All of a sudden, I see this elk come running at me from 2 hills away. She comes barreling towards me and then she disappears. Well, that's because she went down and then she came up the other hill closer to me and she's coming right at me. And she gets to be about 50 feet away from me. I can see the steam in her nostrils. All we have is like some weeds between us, but they have no leaves on them. So like they're basically just sticks. I have nothing to protect myself. And my dog's not chasing her and I don't understand what's going on, right? I don't understand, I don't want my dog to chase her, but I'm like going to get trampled. And so then in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is this a bull? And then I'm like, wait, bulls don't lose their antlers until like April. This is December or January, whatever it was. It was winter. And so I'm like, this is a cow. And so she looks at me. She just keeps staring at me, trying to assess who I was or what I was. And then she looks back at my dog behind me. And then she turns back and chases off to the south, and just like she shoots over to the south, not where she had come from, but where the other ones were going. She was probably going to meet up with them or whatever. And I'm just sitting there scratching my head like I almost died. She almost trampled me. And then I thought, why would she trample me? Why was she after me? Why did she see an upright person walking and come after me? What grabbed her baby? And I mean, this is all true. I would take a lie detector. I swear to you, this is all true. This all happened and she was after me. And I saw an upright thing walk across the bridge, but I never saw the calf. But I will say this, and I have video of this. Every year thereafter, a cow will stand in that place right around there waiting for a baby, like babies are getting taken. Like, I don't know if there's coyotes and there's bear there too. You know what I mean? but it was a mother that her baby had gotten taken from her. And now this is going to sound really weird, but I went to work and I told my manager about it, and he was like, you got really lucky. And I know what that sounds like. I had to rescue a baby calf that was caught, because they hunt around here. This is just kind of the way it is. And he goes, you were really fortunate to see that, and he believed me, I think, but he was nice about it. But other people at work that had seen things like this also came up with their stories, like the one that I told you that they hung a bear and he had seen it. You know what I mean? So I'm not embarrassed to tell the story. The freakiest part about it is, what's the point of it, right? Well, the point of it is that Bigfoot had seen me the night before and had seen those babies celebrating. And I swear to you, I just got this feeling as soon as all this went down that Bigfoot was punishing me because I cared.
That's really interesting.
And that's the part, isn't that weird?
It's that's unlike anything I've ever heard, to be honest. You're saying multiple other people have experienced similar things in the same area?
Well, not like that, but they've seen them.
Oh.
They've seen them up closer. But yes, they're, and I mean, out where I am, after that, there was, I have pictures of it, and I posted on Facebook because I wanted to know about some of the local hikers. They go hiking everywhere. Wanted to see if they'd ever seen these bones. They were laid out. There was moose, elk, deer, all lined up, like different ages of bones. I have the pictures. I mean, I have receipts for stuff.
Right.
When I experience stuff, I take pictures. I have like a moose liver was left for me last year. I called Fish and Game because it would have been a poaching incident. It was in the summer. They're like, we don't know. Like, why just deliver? You know what I mean? It was left where my car parked.
Just a random moose liver?
Yes.
I don't get that. Why?
You're telling me.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a dumping. It wasn't anything dumping. My dog's, this sounds kind of silly, but my dog's balls disappear, the tennis balls, and they'll pop up in the same place. Like, just weird mind games. Like, really weird mind games. And I was hiking one day, and I have the text message. My roommate, I had taken her out like a couple days before to where I was hiking, and this is around where this all went on, with this cow elk. And I took my dog. I have a little Shih Tzu and the German Shepherd at this time because I'd gotten the Shih Tzu. My dad brought her to me as a rescue, and anyways, so I'm hiking 3 days. I took her hiking, the roommate. And then 3 days later, I went hiking alone. And I remember I took a picture of this thing and I said, was this there when we were hiking? And she's like, yeah, that was there. And then we went up this hill towards the mountain. And I hear this, I don't want to say my dog's name because people know me, but it's a 2-syllable name and it's very unique. It's German. And I hear that. And then my dog did too. And it was twice. We hear this twice, and it's in my roommate's voice. And I'm like, gosh, she came out here. I thought I was going to have privacy. I'm kind of being kind of like a brat about it, right? Because I'm thinking, gosh, she followed me out here. I thought she was going down by the river. I wanted some time. You know what I mean? She knows my hiking spot. And she's coming without, And so I texted her. I said, are you here? And she goes, no, I'm taking a shower. I'm back at the house. And I said, I just heard you yell. And I have the text messages. I said, I heard you yell my dog's name, and I said her name. And she goes, I believe you. She goes, but I swear to you. She goes, I was down at the river. Look, these are the pictures I took. I'm here at the house right now. She took a picture, And I was like, oh my gosh, my dog even heard it and perked up and was like, we were confused as to what to do next. We thought it was her. Her name was Kristen. I thought it was Kristen because it was in her voice. And there was nobody around. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's extremely strange and very unsettling. Are there a lot of like missing person cases in that area?
Yeah.
Okay. And probably we don't want to go into names for respect and also for privacy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just high weirdness. There's some high weirdness, and then other people who aren't connected to it or who aren't sensitive to it would say no, because they don't get out or they don't, I mean, it's just anywhere you go. There is especially high weirdness here, I think, because of the mountains. That would be the correlation. I'd say there's more high weirdness here than there was where I grew up. Way more. I mean, this is like a mecca, but I think it's connected to the elk. I don't think it's anything else other than the elk. And I have a theory. They really want to manage animals. They really do.
The Bigfoot do?
Yeah. They think they are in charge. And, I just believe that man was given dominion over all the creatures. I think they are competition. We're competition for that. And I don't even think they use the same parts of the animal that we do. I mean, it's really not competition. I think it has to do with different degrees of glory. I think it has something to do with things that are ancient, things that are beyond us that we don't know. I think it keeps our eyes on them when we chase after them or we focus on them. We're glorifying them, and that's what they're looking for. I think that they know ways that we don't. I don't think they're, like necessarily all evil. You'll hear about some saving some, that's fine and dandy. Obviously, they're able to procreate, but I don't know that they, some people say that they see them and they look like they've lived forever. I don't know that they really can die. I don't know. And I don't know that they're all the way here either, but I know that they have supernatural gifts and I know they've been around for a while. And I know that, like in the LDS or Mormon religion, and it's not talked about, but some of the apostles have seen them and talked about them, the early pioneers. They've written, it's in, history. And so it's like, I mean, the one occasion was like 1835, and I don't really want to get too much into that because I'm not trying to say anything about that. I'm just saying that there's things that have been happening for a long time. It's not just a recent thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's not just, in the Mormon writings. I mean, there's multiple accounts in that time period, the 1800s, of wild man sightings all over the country. It's incredible.
I know. Yeah, it is. But I think that I don't know. They just master things, but I feel protected. Like I know who I am. I know I'm like a child of God. I know that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know where I come from. I know I do have dominion over animals. I'm not out, bow hunting elk right now, like alone. I'm not in fear, but I haven't camped for a long time. It does kind of keep me, I'm careful. Right. And I have an underwater whistle that I blow. When they do the tree knocks, I'll notice there's a correlation to when they flush out deer. Like I heard a couple of years, maybe it was last year or the year before, I heard a tree knock when I pulled up to take my dogs out, and it was 1, 2, and then 3. And then I thought, okay, started walking back to my car. I was like, I'm not doing that. Well, obviously, right? And then I look up and this herd of deer got flushed out of the woods on the other side. And then they started running back up into the woods and they got flushed out again. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
so you're hearing tree knocks right outside your house?
No, this is just, it's about 3 miles away.
Okay.
It's like 2 ridges over. Wow. Yeah, because I take my dogs somewhere else to go running where we're not, because I'm in a neighborhood here. I'm kind of I'm right outside a mountain. I'm looking at a mountain right now, but there's some neighbors, you know what I mean? So I don't have any situations around my house to speak of. I know the neighbor said that she saw someone in the garbage that was really big with a big hood that ran really fast, and I didn't ask any questions. But other than that, you know what I mean? There's just, and I have chickens and stuff like that, so I don't even want, I don't have any issues with them coming here. I don't have those issues, and I don't know, I don't even want to really talk about it because I don't want to conjure anything up.
No,
But
I get you. I get that feeling where it's like you want to be careful what you talk about. The area where you heard the tree knocks, do you ever hear any other strange sounds out there that don't
Yes.
belong? Or
Yes. Okay, so here's something else, and this
All right.
I can't put together. So, and I have video too, where I started to record because I had to, and I came home and called my sister in Florida and said, "Oh my gosh, listen to this." She goes, "I can hear it." So what happened was I went up on this hill, and there's this activity area. I don't want to name it out too much, but there's this activity area which is not very populated because it's not very popular. There's other activity areas,
Mhm.
people can go to. But anyhow, no one was out there. I took my dogs and I was ball launching. And my dog, sometimes she winds up, the German Shepherd. She gets excited over the balls like a coon hound would over a raccoon or something. It just is ridiculous, right? But she gets really excited. And so she starts doing that, that sort of thing, but it's loud. So she was doing that. And then until I release the ball and she can go run, because when she's running, she can't scream anymore, right? So then she goes and runs. Well, she did that a couple times. And right behind us in the wood line, and it wasn't very far away, it was maybe 20 feet into the wood line, I heard this electronic, like a backup, like a trailer, you know what I mean? Just a weird, out of this world. It wasn't really a trailer backup. It wasn't mechanical, but it kind of sounded like it, but it was loud.
Okay.
And I thought, what is that? And it would get loud and then dissipate and then get loud and then dissipate. And then I heard like little cries, like I was tempted to go in and check on what it was, and I did not. And instead I turned on my phone and started recording. And I do have some of those cries. And
You have that recorded. So were they like baby cries, or?
at first I thought it sounded like baby cries, but then I thought maybe it was an animal, like a calf or something. So I thought maybe it was an animal that was being asphyxiated. And I thought, but gosh, why that timing? Why did that weird electronic noise spark up when my dog was making that weird noise? It's like it got attracted to it and then started doing its thing. It was weird, really weird. And I do have it on. I have a recording, and it has the little cries. You can hear them. I mean, it's not loud like being there, right? But you can still hear it. And toward the end, it kind of sounded like maybe it was a baby deer or a full-grown one. But I went back in there. I don't know why. A few weeks later, there was a big elk bone just laying right out in the open where it shouldn't be. And I took that like as a warning. You know what I mean? But there was no dead elk carcass or carry on inside or anything. So another time I went out in the same area. I show up, it's in the afternoon. I get my dogs out, and all of a sudden I hear that loud beeping, like electronic, but it wasn't in the wood line. It was down. It was like, I don't know. It was super loud, like almost like an alarm, like almost like, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but you know that one thing that they show, like they say that they see, and it's like this tall thing that they call like Radiohead or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That, it sounded like that.
Really?
I got into my car and left. Yes.
Oh, man.
It was a electronic loud alarm sound and no one was around. And I'm just like, this is nuts. And there was a vibration. You could feel a vibration. But it was just, there was no reason for it because there's no alarms there. There's nothing there.
When you're saying you feel a vibration, so you were feeling it like it was affecting you, or can you describe a little bit more what you mean by that?
So the noise was loud, but it resonated like a vibration.
Okay.
So it felt, you could feel a vibration, like physically. I don't remember physically putting my hand on anything and feeling a vibration, but you could feel that it was a vibration somehow. I don't know how to explain it. Just that it was a vibration.
Did your emotional state change at all during that time?
What happens when stuff like that happens is I do the flight.
Yep.
And so I get mad and do the flight.
Okay.
And so when that happens, what I will say happens is I get sick, but my emotions don't. Like I don't want to go right then investigate because I know that it's something probably bad, something, you know what I mean? And I know that it's a warning to me, just like I feel like anytime I've dealt with this stuff, even with that cow elk with the calf,
yeah,
it's like always a warning. And here's one more thing I have to tell you.
Okay.
So on that same trail, right after that cow elk thing happened, my dogs and I will go down this trail, and this is where I found this old pickaxe. It was just awesome. I still have it. But we go down this really steep trail, and there's no trees where we go. You have to go up the mountain up on top because it's just covered with, like, there's old mining stuff, you know? Like, not stuff, but like the ground is not, there's no trees.
Right.
Till you get up on top, and then there's trees everywhere, galore, right? So I went in one day, and this tree that was about 10 foot, 12 foot tall was laying right there. It had been ripped off, and it probably had about, I don't know, 8-inch, 10-inch circumference. Healthy tree, perfectly healthy. I have pictures. And I thought, what broke that off and threw it here? Because you can't, I mean, you have to bring it there. And why is it right here where I walk? And why is it broke off? It wasn't, it wasn't axed or chainsawed. You know what I mean? It wasn't sawed. So it was ripped, and the bark was broken around it. It was a brand new tree. So it's like something threw it there, like, stay away from here. You know what I mean? It's right where we go. We are always right there.
Absolutely. That one area sounds extremely weird. I don't know how often I would go there by myself, to be honest.
No.
There's just some really, really weird stuff that you're experiencing in whatever this one area is. And you said earlier that this town has a lot of high strangeness in it. So is there other stuff going on besides Bigfoot? And if you don't want to get into it, I totally respect that, and we can move on.
There's a lot of suicides.
Okay. Gotcha.
And one was just in the woods.
Wow.
So.
Oh, boy.
And it was a big deal. So just a month ago.
Yeah.
So it was a local pastor.
Oh, dear.
But that I don't tie that to anything. I'm sure his family, So it was, but other than that, there's a lot of young suicides. And I don't want to speak for anyone else because there was also an incident which was weird. And I think, I can't remember his name, but there was a podcast that was done on this kid that I know who his mom is, but he just had called her, and then someone was pursuing him or something, and then they found him up on a gulch, but nobody knows. But then right before that, there was like 2 suicides, which were really odd type. So, but that just sounds like it's more like humans, bad behavior.
Right.
Maybe if there was some sort of thing going on that wasn't, there's just a lot of speculation as to whether they were or not, but I don't know those situations or if there's anything to those. And I just try to stay away from that because I think if you get caught up in that, that's the type of spirit you don't want to be friendly with because, who needs to be depressed, right?
Yeah, and I get that. Are there also a lot of like UFO sightings or things like that in the same area?
There's so many mountains. It's there's not a lot of there's sky, but it's like I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I haven't had any, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I know that when there was an avalanche and there was a couple of years ago and there was a doctor who died and then they had the helicopter go up and rescue. Well, didn't rescue, but, recovered the body. And so there was a big thing that went around. The coyotes are out. Keep your dogs in. They're going crazy. They're going crazy. And I was listening to them. And those were not coyotes. It's all it was a feeble attempt to make coyote howls, but I figured it was something else trying to sound like coyotes, and they were angry over those helicopters. Because it was right when they were doing that stuff up there.
Was it because the sound of it was much louder, or what were the main things that tipped you off that it wasn't actually coyotes?
Well, I grew up around coyotes, so I can almost imitate a coyote, right? Like you can call them in. So, but they didn't, it was louder and more, they carried on more, like extended out the howl, and it took different like tones. I mean, it didn't sound like, it wasn't a coyote. It was like, trying to sound like a coyote, but it didn't. There's no coyote that ever sounded like that. I've never heard a coyote make those sounds. At some point, they sounded similar to a coyote, and then they would extend it out, and it would go too far, and then it would change tone. And it's like, that's not a coyote. It's someone imitated a coyote, but it's too loud to be a person. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. I did try to record it out my front window or my front door because you could hear it, but I couldn't capture it. So, but I did capture those noises from the cries in the wood line. And I just think that's really close to dogs and a person to be killing if it was a predator. I mean, what are the chances it was killing something that was crying out like that close to me to where I could record it? You know what I mean?
Right. Or even, another way to look at it is, places like Southeast Alaska, they talk about how they hear cries in the woods, and it's a way that the hairy man is trying to lure people into the woods because they're going to see if there's a baby in trouble, and usually this is there's like there's a woman involved. Like they often know that if they use this type of baby cry, they have a better chance of getting them lured into the woods. So it's just that kind of came to mind when I was hearing your story as well.
That's good. That's good because my dreams from even before this happened are about me rescuing little kids or animals and trying to keep them safe. What is that about? And then I'm in the woods and these sounds come out, and you would think that I would go and rescue them, but I don't, because I don't trust. Because I saw one when I was, young, and I know that they're there. I mean, I don't know what they are. I don't know how dangerous they are. I think that they have like I think there's stipulations to their existence. I think that they're not supposed to mess with us. I mean, I really, truly believe that. I believe there's various degrees of glory. And I believe that, we're here for a purpose. They're there for another purpose. And our worlds collide, but they're not supposed to mess with us. But I do believe they are jealous of us. And it's obviously not because we have wonderful skills, because they outclass us 100%, right? But somehow they are always trying to prove that they are in charge of the animals. And I don't know what that's about.
It's a really interesting viewpoint. I really haven't heard a lot on when I've been doing interviews over the last few years. So I'm kind of curious to ask you, how is it that you view these creatures? Like how would you describe what a Bigfoot is then?
Anytime I hear anybody start to get into the whole, oh, they could survive in the wild and, this could be their forage for this and they could live there, I just want to laugh because I know they're not here all the time. They're not like that. I'm not saying they can't be here. They're not like a bear or organic. They're not of this earth like we are. They're like on a different, they're in a different place. And I'm not saying they don't manifest physically, but I think I think we've heard enough about them, at least in folklore and also in literature and also in sightings, which isn't folklore, to where we know that they do things we don't know how to do, but I don't think they're special. I think they want to be worshipped. And I think they want to worship could be anything. We've got Bigfoot pictures and people focus on them and make money off it.
Statues in some towns, even.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very interesting to think about that way. You think there could be maybe portals involved, or?
Yeah, whatever that is. There's people that know so much more about that, and I think I have an idea. But it seems like every time I get into that or talk about it, I have it doesn't sit well because I feel like I'm too vulnerable. I don't like it to affect I really just like to live, here and now. Like I find pleasure in things like how cute those elk were doing that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I find pleasure in taking care of my chickens and the cute stuff they do, my dogs, my grandkids, there's just so much to enjoy in this world. I really do enjoy things.
Absolutely.
But whenever I deal with that part of things, even from a really young age, I feel like they just put a lot of terror and worry and stress and they make you worry. I mean, I can't even go out hiking without hearing them call my dog's name. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can. They don't call it every time, or a ball disappears. And it's when you least expect it. And then you get all these balls where you've never been. You go hiking and there's all the balls in perfect shape and they're your balls. You've been missing them. In fact, when I was texting that roommate about hearing her call out my dog's name, I said, oh, and I lost 2 balls somehow too. She's like, oh no. I mean, just to highlight how often this happens. And it's like, oh, well, maybe they go into the high weeds, Sherry. Maybe, maybe the coyotes grab them and, mob them around and put them together in one place. I don't know. Maybe homeless people that are coming into the woods now, more and more, maybe they're doing so. I don't know. But I do know that, that there was a message to me with that elk. And there's been several messages to me. And the more, the more experiences I have, it kind of turns different. It becomes scarier because of those electronic sounds. Yeah. And if I didn't have my dogs with me, I just don't think, my cell phone and stuff like that. If I didn't have my dogs with me, I wouldn't probably go where I'm going and stuff, but I just wouldn't feel as safe. And I also am kind of concerned about my dogs. I don't let them out of my sight, and we stay in open areas. I don't let them go into the wood like I used to. We used to go into the brush and things, and then I was finding all those bones and stuff, and then hearing those calls. It's kind of creepy. It's kind of creepy anyways, like, because sometimes where we go, you'll find caches where mountain lion have buried some bones and stuff too. You know what I mean? So you kind of get a little bit of creepiness there. You know what I mean? So there's creepiness anyhow, but
Has something called your dog's name multiple times, or is it just the one time?
thank God, just that one time.
Okay. That's still weird though, man.
Isn't it?
It's super weird.
And my dog perked up its ears and looked.
I don't know if I would go back to that place, to be honest. I mean, just talking personally, like that would weird me out.
I know. And she almost turned and went that direction. But she didn't, because she was with me. But like there was isn't that weird?
It's super weird. Yeah. What's the most recent time that you've had a dream that included something to do with Bigfoot?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I had a bad dream a couple months ago, and I woke up and said, oh my gosh. I remember waking up going, what a horrible dream. But it was more about just being concerned about babies and stuff and little animals. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's very out of the ordinary for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that maybe I think that they observe, obviously they're called watchers, right? And I think they can find your weakness and they pick up on it. I don't believe that they can read your mind. I think they're clever. I think they are clairvoyant at reading your actions. And so it seems like they can read your mind. I believe that only God can read your mind. I think that they can put things into your mind, though, but I don't believe that they can read your mind. And that's just my belief. But I just think that they pick up on your weaknesses and the things that if you're going out there enough, and I mean, it's like almost every day, like I'm out there, you know what I mean? So there's been a lot of, reading of me, if that's what they're doing. I mean, just even talking about it, I feel like it's like a sideline or a sidebar conversation. It's like, I don't know how much I want to give to it, because I don't think they're worth any of it. I know that they've existed for a long time. I know there's a ramp up in their importance. I think that they're dangerous. I think they're unclean. I noticed that people, just an observation, people that get terrorized physically by them, like in person, scared, I think they read that situation as well. I think they get entertained by other people and then mess with them, like that whole having bad dreams and things like that. I know that in some of the accounts from one of the apostles for the LDS church, whatever it was that talked to him, the big hairy creature, whatever it was, had said that he was there to destroy human souls. And that he was miserable and couldn't die, and I mean, of course, there's folklore too. So I believe there were accounts, but I don't know how they change throughout time. I'm just, I'm real open to know that things change. And some of the older accounts don't sound like the more recent accounts, but I know that Bigfoot sure hasn't evolved much. I mean, they're not wearing sandals, and they're not, I mean, they kind of don't evolve at all. They're timeless. They kind of stay where they're at, whereas we evolve, we change and we progress. So there's something to that. They are not equipped to evolve. They have what they have, and they come in and out of our realm. And, I mean, I guess if you don't go in the woods, you don't have to deal with them, but they're there,
makes you wonder where they're going back to after they come to our areas and then they go somewhere else. Where is it they're going back to, you know?
Yeah, it does. And also when people say that they've killed them, it makes you wonder how much of that is true. And then what does that mean? Like, if someone's killed one, what happens to do they have a soul? And if they have a soul, do they get reborn again? Because some people believe that they can't ever die. Like who cares, right? Like all these things are so mystifying and so curious that we could get stuck on them and not have our focus somewhere else. I just really believe that it's dangerous, at least for someone like me, who's been so imprinted. And, you know, here's the problem. Anywhere I go, anywhere I go, I love the country. Anywhere I go, you know, I guess when I was in North Dakota, I didn't feel like there was any, there were no trees, but one went through there. And one of the tribal members had a heart attack when they had the sighting. It had gone on, if you look up, I don't know, I don't know if it was the Bigfoot, what's the group called that does the investigations? BFR. Yeah, I think they did investigation, but I had also, because I lived there, my daughter works closely there, and one of the elders had a heart attack when they saw it. But some of the ladies had seen it out on the ice on the Lake Sacagawea. And so, I mean, I just, you know, I hear about things and, you know, I like to investigate too. There was a time when I was trying to put it together, but since I've been here and had these things going on and I've kind of like put it together, I'm like, oh, I see what's going on. It's trying to get me. The more you look and the more, you know, you hear about people seeking them out, no one ever gets anywhere with it. It's like, you know, a treasure hunt kind of. It's fruitless.
It's a treasure hunt that for most people goes on forever, and hopefully it'll go somewhere in our lifetime. Yeah. But for a lot of people, it really doesn't. It can become all consuming. There's a few people that have said that. Has there been any reports in your area where they've been like particularly aggressive reports or just reports of more high strangeness?
So where I'm at, we don't really report things much. I mean, obviously, you know, because we thought like somebody did call when like they heard the neighbors and it's fireworks and you think, you know, I mean, there's just not a lot of, we're just more to ourselves. I mean, it's all over. I mean, if you go toward even more south and stuff, I mean, it's pretty, you know, I mean, okay. So for instance, even when I went to physical therapy, the gal's like, oh yeah. I see, and I can't say the town, but there's several towns around, you know what I mean? But it's anyways, she goes, when I came into town, I saw one walking. And then we had the owner of the place was like, yeah, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm talking to another kid and he's like, yeah, we just had a deer hanging and they were out on one of the ravines. You know, I don't want to give away where I'm at, but I probably have already. But anyhow, and the Bigfoot kept coming by and smacking, like I said, kept smacking their house and their vehicles and stuff because it was mad because they had this thing hanging out there. You know what I mean? But it had been hunting season. Like they don't like you to show your trophy. They don't like you to hang it. You're not hanging it to show, but to them, that's what it is. I mean, it's almost like they put those bones out and line them up like they're the big, like, you know, trophy people. They're in control of the animal. No, you're not. And if you read the Bible, I mean, obviously, right? Genesis, it talks about, if you do tie it back to this mind, I'm not saying that they are Cain, okay? I'm just saying there's a certain theme, common theme. There's like this, they're of the same vein. Something's there because Cain, the reason Cain killed Abel with a rock, you know how they like to throw their rocks, right? Cain killed Abel with a rock was he was jealous of him. The reason he was jealous of him, in the Bible, it says that Abel was a farmer. He was a shepherd type. He was a husbandry of animals. He was in charge of actual souls, animals. And Cain was a dirt tiller. He was a farmer, but he was not in charge of animals. He wasn't, that was not his degree of glory. So when it came time to give the offering, and it's in the Bible, these are just my words. In scripture, it says that the Lord was not happy with Cain's sacrifice. He was happy with Abel's, and that's why Cain killed Abel. Abel was in charge of animals. Animals are of a higher spirit. You know, they're more sentient than plants. You know what I mean? If you're going to give an offering, right? So I just feel like it has to do with glory. I'm not, I know that sounds really far out there, but it's just, I'm not saying it's direct. I'm just saying going on that same theme, somehow it ties into their need to be in charge of animals. And it's ridiculous. You know?
That's interesting. Yeah. That is, I hear a lot of different theories on the show, and I would have to say that is a very unique one. It's interesting to think about, though. I've talked to another guy from this area, and there's some weird stuff that goes on in up where I think we might be talking, but and this has been a really interesting chat about. I mean, I feel things are going to continue to happen in your area.
I know, and I do have to scale back, and I agree with you. Just so you know, I know that they're going to increase, right? I know that they will. I mean, even though I pray when I go out there and stuff, the fact that I go out there almost feels like I'm returning to the war. You know what I mean? Like it's already been ruined. So I've got to find a new place to go, but I have to go out of where I'm at, out of the area, because it's all over. There's like, you can go 20 miles and it's still there around. I'm not kidding. It's just
interactions with the creature all over the place up there, you're saying?
There is. There is. Yeah. If you're out and you're disturbing, if you're in the way, just the common denominator is the elk, just so you know. So if you're not in where the deer are or the elk, you're probably better off. Do you know what I mean?
Why do you think the common denominator is the elk?
I don't know, but it's definitely, they definitely key in on them.
I mean, the other guy I was talking to, there was elk involved. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not so much the moose, but I think because the elk are like cows, like they migrate in herds, you can control them better, and like deer too, you know? I just think that, they like get off on it. They think that, I know that sounds crazy. I mean, I feel like it's crazy to even talk about it, but you got to understand. I mean, I've gone driving. I took a vacation. I went driving up the river, and, you know, close to where that guy, not on purpose, because I live here, but close to where that guy had that Bigfoot sighting, and out of the river bank come running two does and like rammed into my front quarter panel or front fender and my side door. And it's like they were being chased. And I'm like, what in the heck was chasing them? Yeah, it could be a coyote. Yeah, it could be, you know, whatever. But it's like, I just feel like, you know, I mean, it just put me on such high alert, and I never hit, you know, I didn't hit them. They ran in, and of course they could have been running up there, but I mean, they were in such a hurry to get out of that embankment. And it's like, I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like I get messed with. You know what I mean? A little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're dealing with it your whole life for sure. But Anna, I'm glad we talked tonight, and please keep me in the loop with if things continue to happen with, hearing weird sounds or just out of the ordinary things. I'd be interested to know if it continues to happen. But
I will let you know.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Just want to take a few minutes to say thank you to you, all my listeners, for listening to the podcast. Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's a list: the Subtle Lake area of Oregon, Rainbow, Oregon, McKinsey Bridge area, Sweet Home, pretty much that entire area, the north part, if you get what I mean. I'll see you back next time, listeners. Sasquatch Summerfest this year, July 11th through the 12th. It's going to be fantastic. July 11th through 12th in Green Waters Park in Oak Ridge, Oregon. And listeners, if you're going to go, you can get a 2-day ticket for the cost of one if you use the code BFS, like Bigfoot Society, but BFS, and it'll get you some off your cost. Priscilla was nice enough to provide that for my listeners. So there you go. I look forward to seeing you there. So make sure you head over to www.sasquatchsummerfest.com and pick up your tickets today.